Hi guys, a lot of you have been asking about my skincare regime, so today, no, not really. This is a video about working with code in Atom. So the main objective here is that we want to look at the very, very basic process of how do you get started programming in Atom and how do you see the results of programming in Atom. So let me just show you my face very briefly. Here is my face, the results of my beautiful skincare regime. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the most basic little bit of code editing to show you the basic steps that we'll take when we want to start working on a project in JavaScript. Okay, so we'll just be looking at my screen from here on. And the cat is now on the table. Okay, that's fine. So the first thing that we want to do when we're going to work on something in Atom and start a new project is that we want to download the template project from the website. Okay, so I'm going to go to the course website over here, which is at github.com/cart232020, cart2532020, right? And I'm going to go and grab the P5 template project. Now, often in the lecture notes, I will actually link directly to the template project. But in this case, I'm just going to show you where to find it on the website. So as you might imagine, we're going to go to templates just here. And there's a folder and there's a zip file. We're going to download the zip file. So I'm going to click on that zip file. And somewhat unfortunately, it doesn't immediately download. There's one more step. And you can see that there's a little download button here. And I'm going to click on that. So I click on that, and as you can see down there at the bottom left of my screen, it's now downloaded template p5 project.zip. So that's the first step. That should always really be the first step because it allows us to download all the basic pieces of a project using this thing called p5, which we're going to be exploring, to let us start working on it. Okay, so my files download onto the desktop, so I'm going to go and look at my desktop. It didn't download onto my desktop, it went somewhere else. That's always interesting. I'm going to go and show it, show in Finder. And I can see it actually went into my downloads folder. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to worry too much about where I'm doing my work, but I am going to copy this across to the desktop. So I'm just going to drag it onto my desktop like that, and I'm going to unzip the file, right? So I'm going to double click on it to unzip it. Double click, unzip. Depending on whether you're using Windows or Mac or something else, you may need to do something else to unzip. But the main thing, and I'm sure you've done this many, many times, the main thing is you want to end up with a folder called template-p5-project. And inside it is all of the good stuff that we're going to be using to run our programs in Atom and JavaScript. Okay? So that's the first step. Download the template p5 project because that's got all of the kind of setup that we need to actually do some programming. It's all kind of done for us so that we don't have to do it over and over again ourselves. And you can see inside this folder there's a bunch of other things. The most noteworthy things that are really important is there's an index.html. That's so that we can display our project as a web page. And there is a JS folder. That is the thing that contains all of our JavaScript, which is the programming that we're doing, right? And in particular, there's this one file called script.js. Most of the time, that's where we're going to do our programming, okay? I'll talk a little bit more about what's in there in a second. So once we've downloaded it, I'm not worrying about version control for this video, so I'm just going to edit it while it's on my desktop, and we'll just focus on getting it working. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to open Atom. You probably have your own way of getting programs running on your computer. On my Mac, I use Command and then space to bring up the Spotlight search box that you just saw, and then I type the name of the application I want to run, and I hit return. Boop. And then here comes Atom, right? Because I don't have anything open in Atom, I just get an untitled text file, right? And I could do some amazing word processing. You can see some autocomplete happening there actually, right? So it's a text file. Now, the most important thing that we need to make sure to do is that when we open any project, any JavaScript project like this in Atom, the key is we want to open the folder that contains all of the stuff, right? So this folder is called template P5 project, right? And there's different ways that I could open it. Probably the easiest is if in Atom I go to File, and then I go to Open with its 3 dots, and then I navigate to the location of that folder. So I know it's on my desktop. I select the folder, right? Not any of the files inside it. I don't want to just open index.html, for instance. I don't want to just open the script. I want to open the folder that everything is inside. That's the entire project. So I select it here in my selection, and I click on Open. And the way that you'll be able to tell whether or not this worked is that over here on the left-hand side, you've got a listing of what's in your project, right? This is the project pane of Atom. And you should see at the very top the folder that your project is in, template-p5-project. And then just like we saw in the Finder or the file display before, it's got a list of all of the stuff that's inside that folder. And you can open the subfolders by toggling their little arrows. Okay? So that's the process. Just so that you can see, maybe another way of opening this is I'll close this window. Another thing I could do on a Mac, and I think this works on Windows too, is I could grab the folder and I could drag it down here and I could drop it onto the Atom icon like that. That has the same result. I think if you want to be really sure, then the file open technique is probably the best. I'll just point out here, just so you might, you might run into this, it's possible to open multiple projects or folders at the same time in the same Atom window. You really, really want to avoid that, okay? You should always have a situation where you only have one project folder open in Atom, because that's the one that you're working on, okay? One window per project. Okay, so we've got it open now, and we can see that there's a bunch of files in there, right? I'll just close everything for now. So there's nothing open. We've got some folders and we've got some files. Let's look at what's in here. The most important thing is that it's providing us with the basic structure of a JavaScript project using P5 so that we don't have to do it ourselves, okay? It just makes our lives significantly easier. So just to quickly review what we have in here, we have index.html. That is a file written in the language HTML, hypertext markup language, and that contains the stuff that is needed to make sure that we can run our P5 project, okay? Most importantly, it's got a style sheet that does almost nothing in this project. It's got some scripts that are being included with the HTML script tag, and you can see that these scripts are all inside the JS libraries folder, so that's in this JS folder here, and then inside the libraries folder here. And I'm noticing actually, even as I say this, that it's including one extra file which is actually not there. You can see that p5.dom.min.js is not there. I'm going to delete this line, and I'll remove it from the template project so you won't run into this problem. Okay, the final thing is also another script, which is a script tag including our script.js file, okay? And that's at the bottom here, and that's in js/script. You can see it's in here, js/script. That's the file. It's important that this script file is included here after these library scripts, okay? So you don't want this to be up above them. So we don't want that to happen. We always want a script that relies on other stuff. So this script relies on P5. It should come after those scripts. Don't worry about that for now because it's all set up for you already, okay? So that's the index.html. You'll see throughout that I've got some README files as well, readme.md. That's just like the README that you created for your GitHub repository earlier. It's a very good idea whenever you work on a serious project, not something like what we're doing now, where we're just playing around, that you fill in information about the project here. Give it its title, say that it's yours by writing your name in it, describe what the project is, any special information that somebody should have, etc. That's a good thing to always have available. The other parts of the project are an assets folder. Assets just refers to anything in the project that's not kind of the code, right? So that's most obviously, for the purposes of this course, images and sounds. So those are image files and sound files. In this instance, we've got a placeholder, clown.png, which is a picture of a clown's face, which I like to use as my avatar. And in the sounds folder, we've got bark.wav, which is a sound of a dog barking, just so that there's something there, okay? So when we start making projects with images and sounds in them, we're going to keep our project tidy by putting the images in the images folder and the sounds in the sounds folder, okay? Tidiness is a virtue. So that's the assets folder. It holds all of the non-code files. The other folders are CSS. That's got a very simple style file in it. It does almost nothing except reset the padding and margin, so don't really need to worry very much about that. We're not going to deal much with HTML or CSS in this class, so it's fine if you don't actually know any CSS right now. And finally, as I said, we've got the JavaScript folder, JS. Inside that folder are the libraries that we're using. So this library that I'm going to be talking about a lot, called P5, is in this file called p5.min.js here. If you click on it, it is absolutely terrifying. I can scroll through it a little bit. Makes no sense. Just look at that. That is not what programming looks like. Some of you may already know this, but the reason that it looks so ridiculous is that it has been minified. That's why the file name is actually p5.min.js instead of p5.js. Minification is this process where they take sort of readable code written in a way that a person could use it, and they make it as small as possible by making all of the names for things really short, removing all of the line breaks, and so on, so that it takes up as little room as possible, so that it downloads as fast as possible, okay? But we don't need to worry about this file. We're not going to concern ourselves with it. Same goes for p5.sound.min.js. Just don't worry about that file, those files in the libraries folder for right now. That leaves us with script.js, which is also in the JS folder. And this is going to be our home base. This is where we're going to actually do our work, okay? And certainly for the first several weeks, we're going to do all of our programming inside the script.js file, all right? So that's the most important file. Okay, so we've now got our project open in Atom. There's not actually a lot more to do, which is nice. For the purposes of this example, we're going to write just one line of code inside the setup function, okay? And by inside, what I mean, and I'll talk about this more, I mean inside these curly brackets, right? These curly brackets, here's an opening curly bracket, and here's a closing curly bracket, and I want to write my code inside there. So I'm going to write one line of code, and you should follow along, of course. Background, open parenthesis, 255, 0, 0, and then a semicolon at the end, okay? And I'm going to save that. Now, these numbers here, 25500, we'll talk about more, but this is the RGB representation of the color red. This is just so that we can see something on the screen. So now we've got some code. We've got actual programming has been done, so congratulations on that. It's a line that will tell P5 to set the color of the canvas that it draws things on to red, and that's all that it does. So in the workflow, we would want to actually see this code running. And so to do that, we're going to use the package that we installed called Atom Live Server. And to do that, we're going to go up to Packages, up here at the top. We're going to find Atom Live Server. Don't worry if I have more packages listed here than you, by the way. I've just been doing stuff with Atom for a while. Atom Live Server Start Server. It would be a good idea to memorize this keyboard command. So this, in this instance, is Control-Option-L to start the server. You do it enough that it's worth knowing the shortcut. So Start Server, I click this, and what happens is it switches over to my Chrome, because that's my default browser, and it shows me the results of that program. This is the program running, and you can see, indeed, that there is a red square here. This red square is the canvas that P5 is drawing stuff on for us. If your default browser isn't Chrome or Firefox, you should change that in the settings of your computer. You really want your projects to run in either Chrome or Firefox for purposes we'll talk about later. If you really want to keep your default browser as something like Edge or whatever you're using, I can show you separately a way to get Atom to launch your projects in a different browser for our purposes. Okay, so the program worked. Over here, we have a red square that's being displayed on a web page. And if I switch back to Atom, on a Mac I'm using Command and then the Tab key to get up to this menu. Something similar works on Windows. I go back to Atom. This is that line of code that's doing that thing, right? Now, that is the basic process. We open the project folder, we write some code in our script.js folder, file, and we use Atom Live Server by doing Atom Live Server start server. Now it says stop because it's already running. And then we look at the results in a browser. Most importantly, it's called Atom Live Server because it's live. And that means that if I make changes over here, it's going to be reflected in the actual code running in the browser. So if I were to change these numbers, which is the main thing I could change, I could write 127.255 and 10. Yep. If I save this file, so I just saved the file, I apologize. I'll change this to 20. I saved it by using the keyboard command because I'm so used to it. But if I save this file in the more traditional way by going File and then Save up here, you can see that it's Command S on a Mac and Control S, I think, on Windows. Please learn keyboard shortcuts. They are so much easier and they make your life much better. If I save that file, the thing that happens in the background is that over in the browser, the code has actually been updated to show the latest version. So if I switch back to Chrome, where it was running, now you can see that my canvas, the square here on the screen, has turned green. And that's because those numbers that I changed now say that it should be green. Okay, so I switch back to Atom. I could do some more programming. I save the file. I switch back to Chrome. Maybe I'll change this to 200 now. Save the file. I go back to Chrome. And now it's changed color again. It's a much lighter green color, getting a bit minty. Okay? That is the basic workflow. Okay? Whenever we're going to start work on a project, we download the template P5 project. We open it in Atom. We make sure that we open the entire folder in Atom so that it looks like it does here in this project pane in Atom. We edit our code in script.js, which is this file here that we're looking at. And we use Atom Live Server by going to Packages, Atom Live Server, Start Server to make it run the code in our browser. And then every time we edit the code and save, it gets updated in the browser. And this gives us a really nice way of being able to check our work as we go. All right, that's literally all that we need to know right now. That gives us the power to start writing programs on our computer, which is pretty powerful, I think. Okay, so that's the end of this video. There are many more to come, of course. I think it's pretty wonderful that we've already written a line of code and seen it running on our computer. The sky is the limit. We could now have a tiny square with any color that we could imagine if we just changed those numbers. So go wild, spend the weekend just finding all of the great colors that you want to put up. But seriously, we'll learn a little bit more than that quite soon. Okay? So for now, signing out. See you in the next video.